We look at this new Gen Z audience who were born into some of these really harsh economic conditions, and I think there's a sense of realism that we see with this audience that we didn't necessarily see with our millennial group. For those of us kind of working in the youth marketing world, like we are now in a post-millennial world, which is kind of fun to say. But we are now talking to a generation that kind of spans between they were born in 1995 through kind of 2010. There's always those like little discussions about and debates around exactly what year it is. But our millennials were in that 1980 through 1995 timeframe, and the way that we look at them, from a population perspective, we're actually at almost 1 million people more than the millennial group. So I think from a sizing perspective, they're going to be a sizable audience for us. When we look at kind of from a demographic perspective, they are truly multicultural by definition. We look at the years between 2000 and 2010, and in that time, we see a 4 times increase in the Hispanic population over the Gen Pop. And we have a huge multicultural audience, 134% increase in folks who actually identify as biracial. So we're living in a very different world. When we think about, again, what this generation has experienced compared to the millennial audience, our millennials, we often think about them as sort of the innocence lost generation. They grew up and they were born in a period where things of relative prosperity and stability from a political perspective, and then we kind of evolve into 9/11 and some really difficult economic times. So a lot of their perspectives were shaped through that, and we look at this new Gen Z audience who were born into some of these really harsh economic conditions, and I think there's a sense of realism that we see with this audience that we didn't necessarily see with our millennial group. So I think from a kind of socio-cultural perspective, it's really interesting to look at these guys, and then we look at and finally a really important piece, which is just the influence of digital. And millennials have always been thought of as the digital natives. When we look at this audience, it's not only mobile first, but it's mobile only. These guys are really known for their entire worlds have been mobile from the time that they were born, from the time that they were 4 years old looking at Netflix for the first time. Everything has been on demand. And so that's where we really have to think about as marketers, how do we actually reach these guys who have such high expectations of us, which is really exciting and I think a really formidable challenge for all of us.
So this is our moment. Gen Z is Nickelodeon's moment because we love it because their parents grew up on Nickelodeon, love Nickelodeon, and are now having kids of their own. So this is really the first generation of kids from parents who grew up on our brand. So this is a really interesting time. We've spent a lot of time talking to the audience, trying to understand them. Who are the Gen Z kids of today? And one of the things, like we just heard, is this is a very connected generation, but this is also a generation that's closer to their family than they've ever been before. Mom and dad rule. They do not want to spend time with really anybody else other than their parents. In fact, we call it the Velcro family because everybody wants to spend so much time together. It's a family that loves, it's a time the kids are authentic, they have very strong relationships, and for Nickelodeon, we are, and you'll hear throughout the conversation, we are constantly creating content that reflects both families in a great way. Parents used to be in the background at Nickelodeon, now they're right front and center, and they're a very important part of our storylines. And then as we think about our business and building franchises, we are really having a moment right now with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I'm segueing into this property. Don asked me to talk a little bit about franchises today because this is a show and a property that's been around for 30 years. So people grew up on this, and now that they're having kids of their own, they want to start consuming media with their families. So we found the Turtles about 5 years ago. It was a completely dormant brand. We bought the property, and Nickelodeon reinvented it for really a new generation. And I think it was about 2012, we relaunched the TV show And we also relaunched a line of consumer products, which was kind of a bet to grow our business. And what was so great about the Turtles, I don't know how many people here watch the show. I bet everybody knows. Thank you, sir. Okay, we got a lot of Turtle fans here. But, you know, in essence, it's the perfect Nickelodeon show that we actually might have created 30 years ago, because it's a show about 4 brothers. It's a very strong family. There's a lot of heroics in it and a lot of heart. And bottom line is, it's really funny. So we launched the show, we launched the products, and it was very successful. We launched it across all of our platforms, huge social following. We connected with the original fans, made sure that this was a show that they wanted to see, so we were close to the super fans.
The power of a franchise is remarkable. If you look at how Disney has done it and Nickelodeon's done it, if you're able to take a piece of IP and extend it year after year, the built-in awareness, the lower costs of marketing, the lower risk because you're not introducing new things all the time is so powerful. And because you now have the parents and the kids so close, the ability to extend a franchise and build on a base property, whatever it is, in packaged goods or IP for movies or television, is much greater than it's ever been before, and the rewards of franchising or building something that has durability and sustainability are far greater, and I suggest that that's one of the big opportunities when you're looking at Gen Z.
The notion of this post-millennial generation being very diverse, it's something that we've absolutely been tracking, do a lot of research with that consumer. And what we've seen is, yeah, there's a rise in multiculturalism, or the notion of valuing differences, encouraging engagement of diverse audiences. You even see it in schools and with curriculum, with 21st century learning. Multiculturalism is a big part of that. So then as we're developing brands and developing products, we're starting to think about this generation of kids we're trying to appeal to. And there are a couple examples. I think one is a brand that we've had that's been successful that I think really tapped into the emergence of this next generation. That's Monster High. Has anybody heard of Monster High? Do you have, okay, a couple of you, right, raising hands, great. Yes, Monster High, I mean, the diversity there is you've got purple, pink, green, yes, you know about Monster High.
Hello.
Yes, you've got, I mean, incredible diversity, but it was also, it wasn't just the physical representation of a diverse group of monsters, creatures that really weren't associated with any ethnicity, but it was also the purposefulness that we were trying to introduce for that brand, which was about really, it's about self-acceptance and acceptance of differences. And I think from a brand product perspective and brand marketing, then it's about, well, how do we make that feel authentic, not just through the physical product? So we'll do something like partnerships. So the partnership that we just announced with Lady Gaga's organization, Born This Way. So that was a way of really partnering authentically with another organization that could elevate the purpose of Monster High as really being about embracing differences. And then the other example that I can talk about that many of you may be aware of, we've kind of been reinventing our Barbie brand. And that has been a process that we've been engaged in for a while. And I think I've got an image that just shows what we've done. This was recently announced. So with Barbie, again, acknowledging and recognizing how diverse this Gen Z consumer is, we actually introduced 4 different bodies, right? 7 different ethnicities, 22 different eyes, 20 different hairstyles. So what we're really trying to do, as hopefully you can tell from this image with our fashionista line, is really trying to reinvent the brand so it's just not so closely associated with a particular look or character, but truly so that the brand represents a platform of play that involves dolls and personas that look a lot more like the world around this generation. And I think that was the intent with this. And then what we're also trying to do is elevate the conversation around the brand. So maybe it's not just about appearances, but there's actually a purpose behind the brand, and that's about imagination and play. So we had a campaign, Imagine the Possibilities, which we also just launched this year. And again, that was really trying to know what this generation is about, know that they're about purposefulness, identify the purposefulness of this brand, which is possibilities, and then really communicate that through advertising.
The
Just talk
business
about-
that we're in, whether it's Turtles, whether it's Barbie, isn't selling products, it's selling entertainment, it's selling imagination. And what we love about the Barbie program here is that it allows girls, boys to think and be whoever they want to be. And that's very liberating, and it's clearly very important in terms of what we want to stand for as an industry and what we want to be relevant in this industry overall and to kids at large. So we partnered with Barbie on this program, with Mattel on this program, and we couldn't be more excited about what it means today, but also what it means for the brand in the future as well.
Pam, anything, I mean, Nick is a very diverse culture to start with, but in terms of this new phenomenon, anything you want to add?
I think what we're seeing now is, Barbie's obviously one example of it, but, you saw it even in my Turtles tape. There are girls who are reinventing the Turtles. They want to wear Turtles. It's such an interesting moment right now. We have another show called Paw Patrol, which is a show about 5 puppies who saved the world. Just check it out, trust me. No, but there's one girl puppy, and for the first time in the industry, and again, my colleagues will confirm this, we are getting the parents and boys are demanding to have the girl puppy in the mix with the boy puppies on their product. I know that sounds simple, but you would never have that, as early as 3 years ago. So girl characters are being requested by the boys, and the girls are taking what is traditionally a boy-directed property and reinventing them themselves. We have a show called Bella and the Bulldogs, which is about a girl who was a cheerleader and is now the quarterback of her high school football team. And it's a great concept. You've been reading about these stories in the news, and the feedback has been overwhelming. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this gender-bending situation, because this consumer, this new generation, doesn't care, and they just want to consume things that they love.
We really are about kind of redefining things, and I think that's really interesting to see, kind of, again, this notion of kind of gender fluidity, and of starting to resonate. Like, I used to work on Target, and kind of during a moment where, we had a moment where there was, some issues with kind of labeling of girl toys versus boy toys. Like, it's becoming much more acceptable.
I think they took their labeling away, right?
They did.
Down the aisle.
They did, and again, this is reactions to not only our customers, but what our kids really need and want. And I think that's where, it's kind of amazing to see, like, the kids starting to shape the way we behave as retailers and marketers. But I think we're taking cues from them, and it's a really exciting moment for all of us.
As you think about how kids are engaging with content overall, you think about the YouTube generation. We've last year launched a line of toys called YouTubers, which are these celebrities now who are basically kids like my 10-year-old who spends 2 or 3 hours watching some guy talking about Minecraft it's crazy. And these guys have incredible subscriber bases on YouTube. If you look at Captain Sparkles, if any of you know that guy, 9.1 million subscribers and hundreds of millions of views. So the way we think about this snacking generation for content, the way that we engage, and we have to have a message which is emotional, one which is authentic, and one that can break through, and that poses significant challenges.
I would just add by the way, that was Star Wars? Was that what you just said?
It was,
Star Wars, right?
Small thing.
No, I would just say for us, we actually have a different kind of challenge, right? We're a company who relies on people to show up to our platforms, consume our content, obviously fall in love with it, and then hopefully the business grows. And so we need to figure out how to break through to this generation. And it's funny, with the preschoolers, we know that we're not going to always get someone to show up at 11 o'clock at a certain time. So for us, we are really focused on the fans of our content, and we know they're consuming content in a lot of different ways. So how we are launching shows has completely changed. When it comes to preschool, we just launched a show last year called Shimmer and Shine, and we actually launched the first 2 episodes first on iTunes so that we would build awareness through the iTunes platform, have the kids consume the content, hopefully fall in love with it, which they did. Then we made it available across all of the Nick platforms. Nickelodeon reaches 30 million of the 40 million 2 to 11-year-olds across all our platforms. So we sampled it there, and then we launched the then we launched the show, which has been doing very well. And then the toys will come in June also to complement it. So that's just one way. The second thing we did was we have a show that we launched last fall called Game Shakers. And this is a show we're super proud of. We were talking about this before the panel started. This is a show by a guy named Dan Schneider who launched iCarly. He's launched everything from Zoe 101, Drake and Josh, all that. And what it is a show about 2 girls in middle school who code. And they come up with a game in science class, and the game becomes one of the best-selling games across all of iTunes. So what we did was when we created the show, we also created the game, and we've created several games. So the show launched, and so did the game. And the game shot to #1 on the iTunes gaming charts. We used a lot of YouTube influencers in the show, so the awareness when the show premiered was tremendous. So our formula of episode, new game, real game that you can download for free is just a new way of approaching the 6 to 11 audience.
I think when you think about kind of the way marketing has changed, I mean, that's such an amazing thing to be able to have content you can experience in a gaming format and then be able to watch a game. It gives a sense of interactivity I don't think we've ever been.
Well, it's like what Rich is saying. We all have to figure out how to continue to break through and connect to the consumer in different ways. So
yeah, it's adapting the content to the different types of platforms. It's,
right.
I think one of the things we're noticing with this generation is how you communicate, or the actual format of the content is really important. And the world is becoming so visual. So when you're working across these platforms, everything is, I mean, whether it's an emoticon,
it can't be one size fit all.
Or GIFs, it's a visual communication that almost needs to happen with this generation. And that's something absolutely we're noticing when you go across these platforms.
I think one of the other mediums that amazes me is unboxing.
Right.
If you look at the amount of time the kids are spending watching toys be taken out
do you
of
guys know
boxes.
what we're talking about with
It's
unboxing? Yes?
It'd be good to just give a little primer.
It's essentially, there's new genres of content that are emerging on these channels. One of them is unboxing, right, which is essentially someone who has a YouTube channel. It could be a YouTube celebrity. It could just be somebody, your next door neighbor, takes a new product, opens it up, and describes the experience of what opening up, unboxing the product is all about. Started with toys is a very
There is
popular medium.
a Prada unboxing channel I found.
Yeah.
Yeah, they open up Prada boxes.
and that's one of the genres that entertain. The other one Richard was alluding to is watch them. Prada unboxing.
Sorry. Don and I are having a moment.
Different toys.
Yeah.
The other one is a watch them play
Yes.
genre, which is also
Right.
very popular among this generation, and we see it a lot with Minecraft, where it's essentially programs where kids are watching other kids play video games, right? So, complete different world out there.
A 9-year-old is still a 9-year-old, and that continues to be our primary target of all of the content we are making. We really have very focused on that sweet spot. And I will say that even though 9-year-olds have access to a lot of different content that we were not used to, and they are exposed to a lot of things, they virtually haven't changed in terms of their overall interests and what they want. And that is probably the biggest misnomer that we have seen all along. I would say, years ago when Nickelodeon started taking our content, I would just say making it a little bit sexier, it did not resonate with the core consumer. So that really has not changed. Again, how they're consuming media, how they feel about their family, how they feel about their friends, all of that continues to change, but at the core, 2 to 11s have not changed that much.
Michael, do you...
I will just add one more thing,
sure.
that there is a huge co-viewing happening, obviously adults watching kids with their shows, and we're seeing a very large audience of 12 to 17-year-olds that continue to watch Nickelodeon because they want to continue to have one foot in childhood. They actually don't want to grow up that quickly. Our biggest SpongeBob watching audience is 12 to 17.
And me.
And Don.
Too. Yeah, I agree. We find the same thing, and we don't really talk about it as kids getting older, younger, because developmentally similar things are happening. But they are absolutely being exposed. There are more options out there. There are more choices out there, and yeah, kids can be exposed to more, but they're not necessarily becoming any more mature, and they're not. And as long as the platforms, even with toys, I mean, toys have been very healthy over the past couple of years.
Business is up.
We do see age compression, yeah, in some platforms of play, but as long as you can deliver a meaningful experience, it's the age targets that are interested in our products have been pretty consistent. When we talk about the future of play and what those play platforms are going to be and the skills they need to deliver on, I mean, coding is something, in STEM, you know, science, technology, engineering, I mean, all those, play becomes such an incredible platform. So it's how do you evolve the products to deliver meaningfully on
You
those
should talk about your
experiences.
caterpillar if you're
I mean,
not.
the Codapillar. So,
The
so that was,
Codapillar.
it was just about to go, we've got
Oh,
everything
sorry.
from,
Awesome.
no, thanks, Pam.
It's
But
awesome.
It's essentially Fisher-Price. We developed a caterpillar, it's like an electronic caterpillar that actually teaches principles of coding for preschool kids, because we know that's becoming part of curriculum. So it's how we integrate the physical product with digital learning and the principles behind coding and object thinking. Those are all things that we're doing.
And one of the most successful, or thing that drives success in STEM and in educational products is the reason why we love the Codapillar is the fact that it teaches kids coding, but it does it in a way that they don't know they're being taught coding. And there's always this line between being serious from an educational point of view, but adding a lot of fun to things. And the most successful products are oftentimes the ones that do it by stealth.
Yes, play is supposed to be fun, it's not supposed to be work. So trying to get those STEM principles through play can be really impactful.
Yeah, and I think mom today is she's very concerned about, she's a little tortured by social media. She loves it, she loves the access it gives her, the information, but it worries her. And so I think it's a great combination of panel. We try to obviously entertain, at the same time be responsible through the product and the content we're making, and mom is definitely focused on that as well. So I think it's actually a really great time for preschoolers to have both this great content and these toys that are, hopefully educating them as they're going along. So.